Hi guys, Mofo here, back with some more awesome Robocraft fun, and we're continuing to have a look at the weapon improvements. This time we'll be having a look at the SMG and the rail. Here we can see the lasers are now real high velocity projectiles, so not lasers then, as opposed to hit scan, and therefore we now need to lead our target depending on its distance to you. The damage of the lasers has been increased to solidify the laser as a close quarter weapon, and it's now much harder to hit distant and moving targets. And it's also covered here. If we have a look down at the 6-gun limit has been removed, so recharge times has now decreased further when you add more than 6 weapons of some types, and that includes the laser as well as the rail, and of course the plasma and nano. So let's have a quick look. I'm going to start by taking this guy out into the little single player, just because it's got all of one tier of weapon. One of the problems we're going to have is a craft such as the Aphid, the Electro Beast, various other ones that have different tier weapons. But just let's have a quick look at this in single player. Okay, so it's got the power bar depletion, much like the plasma, but if you notice, even though I'm just holding down and spamming the fire, it's taking much longer for it to deplete. I have got over 6 weapons on this craft, and I think the main thing with the spam firing as well is you'll notice the accuracy. If you see the inner arrows of the reticule, they widen the longer you hold down on the fire, and that limits your accuracy as well. So the wider that is, if I just do small little shots here, kind of pew pew tap fire, that is much more accurate than opening the fire up and then trying to hit it. Not too difficult, but it's a nice touch. So generally speaking, if you're going to spam fire, make sure you're nice and close to the target. So it's at least, if the shots are going wide, they're going wide onto the craft itself. It is of course sensible, while shooting craft, to attempt to strip the weapons of the enemy craft first. This is pretty much a tip for all weapons if you can manage to do it. Sometimes it can be a little bit harder with plasma, but generally speaking, see there, I mean, if this was a real player, he's only got one weapon on one side. It's difficult for him to shoot me. And once we take that last one off, that's a little bit tricky. Especially with other people shooting at me. Let me just move around. Can we get that last one? There we go. He's now weaponless. And you can chase him around and finish him off. Or you can move on to another target and start stripping the weapons on that one. Oh, it's getting a little bit hot here. They're actually starting to return fire a little bit. But it's generally a good tip to come in and strip the weapons from a craft. Alright, I'm just going to go and hide and regen. I also like how the new regen works. For a while it was kind of freaking me out, as it sort of felt like there was a ghost nano following me around. But it seems now that the regen just kind of kicks in after a certain amount of time, and then is just slightly interrupted if you get shot during it. And it seems to make the game go a lot nicer and a lot smoother. Now, another thing to note when using, I'm not going to go over there because there's a little huddle of them still all stuck together. But if I'm coming in on a target and I start shooting it, maybe I've got this close and I've snuck up. When I start shooting, I am not going to stay still. I'm going to attempt to keep on moving, still trying to be as accurate as possible while taking the weapons off the craft. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes, but you soon get the hang of it. But if you're moving around, they're constantly having to turn to aim on you. This is especially good with weapons other than the lasers, as it can be a lot trickier for them to get shots off, and they can do things like waste volleys of plasma or rail shots, firing wildly and nowhere near. It also means if while you're busy engaged with that craft there happens to be a plasma bomber or something else around, it's going to be more difficult for those to target you. What's really bad is to just come up to something and just stand there and shoot. It can help with the accuracy of your shots, but generally it's making you a sitting duck should anything else see you, and also it's giving the enemy craft much more of an opportunity to return fire accurately on you, possibly strip your weapons or do some real damage for you. Now, there are times, of course, when it will be helpful to stay still, but generally speaking, those are times when you're taking cover and are not in the line of sight of enemy. If it's hot, you want to keep moving. It also means that as the enemy is shooting you, it's generally hitting other parts of the craft, and this is especially useful if you've got electroplating or something like that that can absorb damage. So it means that not just one side of your craft is being disabled, so you've got more chance of keeping your craft intact, as it's just taking small pepperings of damage at different points, rather than being concentrated fire in one area, which can then start to heavily grind down the craft. There we go, we've got both of those pretty well disarmed, and now we just do a bit of cleanup. There we go, lovely stuff. So there's no aircraft in here really for me to demonstrate this on, but I'd say with the leading, the distant shots and stuff, it's just, for the visible range, it's really not that hard, and it's just the same shooting up in the sky. It's a little bit trickier sometimes to judge the distance and the range, but I don't think it's too bad. I think it's actually something that's quite nice. It's added a little bit of skill level to the craft, and this makes it more fun for me. It's much less kind of pray and spray. The tap fire comes into it a lot more now, and let's see, so we've got disarmed this chap too. Yep. So come back, and before this guy regenerates, finish him off. And of course, it's handy to keep landing the odd hits on a weaponless target, just to make sure it disturbs their regen a little bit. And there we go. So that's pretty much it. It's very, very easy to do. I might take this out into a TDM. But first, I'm just going to have a look at a few other bots. Okay, so here I am with my Screaming Skull, and one thing that happens from patch to patch with the SMGs is how well they fire out of the skull while the skull is intact. As you can see here, we've got a very narrow window, and in fact, I think at some point what I might do is increase the size of the skull. I might raise up the height of it a little bit, just so the eyes can be a bit larger without ruining the slope of the top of the skull, so they can fire out a little bit clearer. As previously they were relatively okay, I could actually shoot stuff up. Now it's really tricky trying to get a shot onto that target. If there is a target at ground level, yep, we've got one over here. Here I can actually get a couple of shots out. It's not too bad at all. But it's a lot more limited. I've really got a narrow field of view firing through the slots. So they've increased the kind of limitations on being able to get away with having enclosed spots. It certainly doesn't seem to fire out through the shell. Oh, is it firing out through the shell there? It's firing out through the shell a little bit there. So that's a bit of a glitch. It shouldn't really do that. That may be to do with the proximity of it. So it can shoot out to the sides. It shouldn't be able to do that. But it is limited in firing through. I've also, on this, the Mark 1 version of my skull, I've added in some extra jets and some hovers on this, just to kind of, because originally this section here was a higher tier armor than the white. It was orange, and so I think what that was about T4 or something like that. I'm not sure, but it was a lot higher than the white. And because there is no difference in the armor now, the core doesn't break apart as well. Although it still has quite a lot of components, the design of this, it does have lots of components attached to the outer hull. So the idea was the skull would get shot away, and as the skull got shot away, the weapons could actually fire more freely, and eventually you'd be left with a kind of thruster stick with some hover blades on it. Now, it does kind of still work. If it gets to about OC4 or higher, then the core can still break apart. Otherwise, it's just kind of random. And even after OC4, depending on where the enemy targets the fire, it may still be random as to where it gets hit. So, I may possibly, as said, increase the height of the skull. Just to kind of allow those eye sockets to be a bit more forgiving of shooting out with that. But I've also got some ideas to possibly fit some other things in here. I may well make... I mean, this is still just an art bot. It's just for fun and trolling and a bit of comedy value. But I may well attempt to put a blink module and a shield module inside one of these. I have got two of the skulls to tinker with, and I may build an even larger one. And what's great now is previously I only had two of these because I was limited in the colours. I only really thought, I mean, this blue has changed. It still looks okay, but it looked a little bit nicer in the other blue was a bit more sort of turquoisey, the light blue, and so those still look kind of skull shaped. All the other colours were quite dark and didn't really show off the skull well. Now I can make as many of these as I like and colour them all white, and it's no reflection on the tier of the armour, so that's quite nice. Now if we have a look at something like the aphid, this has got lots of different SMGs on, and so we've got the problem that these are all assigned to different slots, and I find that absolutely useful. That's got to be one of the worst things about this update. I feel that all SMGs, including the megas, the same with any class of weapon, if it's a laser it should all be in one slot. I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure if it's just lazy coding on FreeJam's part, or maybe at some point these different weapons are going to be much more different and have an actual different function. But at the moment I can see 0 point in having a different slot to fire these set of weapons from those set of weapons. So what I'll probably be doing is coming in, and I mean the reason they're smaller is so they fit on the design. So there's room for them to fit next to each other. Clearly this one wouldn't fit here and then have one there. You just wouldn't be able to fit those on. So with this being max CPU, I think what I'll probably do is try this out at making these hybrids and switching the different size weapons to different class weapons, and maybe even taking some of the weapons off. I mean, especially with this kind of craft, where this is, I would pick one where it's doubled up. Okay, what have we got there? Yep. Let's go inside over here, especially one like this where I've got plenty of room inside to stick the modules. That would be very nice. Can I get back out? Can I find my way out? There we go. Escape! Oh, let me escape! Oh, I'm stuck! Oh no! Okay, let's just I'll just drop into practice. Okay, so yeah, I really see there being no point in being able to switch between this weapon, and that's one that's hidden inside to try and protect the core if the ejector seat works. Again, the ejector seat doesn't work on this anymore because it relied on having different tier armor in different places to strengthen certain areas of the bot. That is one thing I don't like. I wish we could just have back one more higher tier of armor. But not with an added CPU cost. Sort of like just two tiers of armor from the old set. Maybe say T1 and T5 or whatever it is. I don't know, but it would be nice for just structural design purposes. But yeah, I just can't figure out why I'd want to switch between these weapons and these weapons. I mean, yeah, there's probably... I mean, the fire rate seems to be dependent on how many of the weapons you've got. Although actually, these two and these, they've got more weapons but seem to be slower than those. But even so, I just don't get why they're not niche enough to seem to warrant taking up a slot on their own. Very, very strange. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the fire rates. Now, the fire rates seem to be all the same. Let's see, what's a single fire rate, 4.5 and 10 on the nominal. I think there must be something up with the GUI, because we clearly saw that even with less weapons, the higher tier ones were firing at a faster rate, so I think this information is incorrect. I cannot see how the single gunfire rate is the same for every single one of these weapons. I think that is a GUI error, and the stats don't truly reflect what is going on in the game. Okay, well, that is enough of that. Let's quickly go and have a look at a rail. So, luckily, I think all of these rails are the same tier. I'm just going to take this into practice. Actually, I'll take it into single player. Okay, yeah, so these are all on the same tier, thankfully. So, I'm not wasting any slots, and they'll all fire on one. Now, this is very interesting. I took this out and had a play with it earlier on, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. It was quite tricky to get the hang of, and very different feeling from the old rail, but I still enjoyed it. Without scoping, you can see you can just kind of fire through by holding down. I'm just holding down. Oh, catching up to me. Run away, run away. Okay. Now, although the weapons seem to turn quite fast on the screen, so visually at least, let's just get up here and lose them. I don't want to be harassed too much while I'm waffling on. Okay, now let's try. I'm going to have to angle myself down. So if I'm scoped in, oops, it's a little bit slow. Doesn't seem quite as responsive as the old rail. And when you're doing stuff like tracking air units, it seems to turn incredibly slowly. I might have to get this one into a... Here you see, again, I'm trying to strip the weapons first. And then I've got time to work on this. And I do enjoy that you only have to wait for the power bar to go enough for one weapon to fire. And I do enjoy this kind of core penetration. It seems to have a lot better core penetration. Again, firing at the visible sight, apart from aircraft where their distance can be misleading, having to lead doesn't seem to be that much of an issue with the rail for me. I think what seems to be more of an issue is it seems to see, by the time it got out of range, I was still able to get shots without having to lead them too much. I suppose it depends on the speed of the craft as well. So it's more an issue for aircraft having to try and get the hang of leading your shots. So I guess we're going to have to go into maybe a quick TDM to see what this guy's like. Okay, so I tried a couple of TDMs, and I just didn't have any luck. Either the aircraft were hiding very low, or I was just getting destroyed before I had the chance. Either way, I didn't really get a chance to demonstrate anything before I got destroyed. And I want to try and keep the video quite short. We've already gone on for a while, so I may well edit out a fair bit of this battle and just try and cut to the bits where I'm targeting air units and such. There we go. So I'm going to try and climb up here and hopefully get to see some air units. Looks like someone else is up here, or flying around over there. It's another rail type craft. Can see a flyer in the distance as well, though. There's a couple of them. Oh, ouch. Was that something hitting me? I've got some support there. It was very strange. I'm not sure if I had a little bit of lag there. Okay, let's try and get some... There you go. Oh, missed. Nope. Oh, I'm being shot at. It can be quite tricky. I'd say it's a lot harder with the air units. It's a lot harder to judge the distance and where they're going to be turning. So getting 3 shots on that Lommel isn't really, unless you've really got it down. And I mean, I haven't had a huge amount of practice with this. So, it's a bit tricky there. There's some chap trying to pester me to find out how you get mod, but I'm busy making a video and trying to stay alive, so it's a little bit difficult for me to type. So, oh, here we go. Here's a chance. Okay, here we go. Here's a nice little flyer. Now, this one's quite close. You can see, though, when you have to move fast, it doesn't turn. It seems a little bit more sluggish than it used to be. Oh, and lag doesn't help. Okay, here we've got that helicopter again. Oh, try and jump. Oh! Oh, it's gonna get me. Oh, I managed to avoid most of that. Can we get into the shield or am I gonna die? I think I'm gonna die. So close! Never mind. Okay, so trying to shoot. You can see that they're going quite well. Oh, come on, God. There you go. Took his Lommel off him. He's disappeared out of range. Still managed to land a hit on him there. That wasn't too bad. So I think this is just one where if you're already a regular rail player, then it might be a little bit sluggish and there might be a little bit of skill level to work on with leading the shots. But I don't think it's going to be too difficult to get the hang of. There we go. If you've never played rail before, then it's going to be a little bit of a challenge to get used to anyway. If you like the idea of playing rail, it's just practice, isn't it? If you want to be good at something, you just need to play it regularly. Oh. But yeah, it seems like it can be really sluggish to turn. Can we see where that's coming from? No, we can't. There it is. Also, sometimes in the practice ground, I seem to be able to pulse fire these a little bit. In the actual battles, it doesn't seem to gen up quite as fast. Although I am having a lot of lag in this battle, so that might be the issue, rather than the rails itself. For some reason it seems to lock up after firing one weapon quite often. I'm not sure if that's a bug. A patch, little hotfix patch came out, and I'm not sure. I haven't checked the full notes for that. They were meant to have fixed some of the things, like the lock-on graphic and audio staying on, even though the lock has been lost. Now, it's not as bad, but I have still noticed that happening from time to time. I'll have to check to see where my weapon's placed. This is the other problem with trying to demonstrate this, is that with rail it also depends on where your weapons are placed as to how well you're going to be able to land that shot. Oopsie. Let's try and get to cover. Yes, the lag in this game is particularly bad. Need to get to cover. Need to get to cover quickly. Don't land shots on me. Get in the shield. Gosh, there we go. That's really quite tricky to land that. Oops. Oh, we've lost our shield as well. We need towers. Oh, try and take cover behind the shield. I mean, behind the core. Oh, so tricky. So tricky in a battle with lag and with no towers. And you kind of panic firing under SMG fire. Oh dear. Doesn't seem to have quite the same fire rate as it did in the practice. Oh, ouch. That was nice. Awesome. Yeah, so I think it's just something you need to get the hang of. I don't think it's drastically changed it. It seems like a fairly nice weapon. We're having a terrible time in here. I really don't think these guys particularly know what they're doing. We've had no tower control whatsoever. So, wasn't really the best game for me to try and demonstrate this, so I probably cut most of it out, but GG. So, overall, I'm quite pleased with the Rails. They seem a little bit sluggish. That is my only criticism. But then again, I'm not sure how much of that has been lag that I've been experiencing. And also, I don't play Rail that often. I think it's a little bit more sluggish. They don't seem to turn quite as fast. Even though graphically they do, they don't seem to turn quite as fast when you're trying to lead shots, especially on aircraft. But I quite enjoy them. I don't really have any kind of issues with these at the moment. I think it's one of the weapons where if you want to be good at it, then you need to be consistently playing at it and practicing. And I seem to have quite a bit of fun, although that last battle was horrible. But I'd been playing with this, not yesterday, I think the day before, and I'd had lots of fun with it. As I say, the only thing I found with it was that the turning doesn't quite seem to match up with the graphics of the weapon rotating. All of the other weapons, especially with the plasma, I've noticed I can be flailing around and still manage to get my shots to land on target. So the weapons do turn a lot faster on the others. This seems to be particularly sluggish at turning. That's about it. So then, I think that's about all for this video. I think we've covered plenty of the stuff on the Rails and the SMG. Next time I'll be back having a look at the Nanos and the Tesla. After that I'll be checking out Flak and the Lommel, and then we're going to get on to the fun stuff. Yes, we'll be having lots of fun. Hopefully by then I will have been able to grind some more RP and be able to afford some more bits and pieces to have a little tinker with. At the moment, it doesn't seem like victory bonuses are working for me. I don't seem to be getting those, and so that's costing me a little bit on the grind. But hopefully, by the time I've made these videos, I've already bought a blink module and a shield module, so I've at least got one of each of those, and hopefully by the time I've done this set of videos, I should have managed to grind my way up to afford to have a little tinker and a play around with some new builds, taking advantage of the new modules. Anyway guys, I hope you like that. I'll be back soon. Let me know what you're thinking of the update in the comments. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.